want to know which planet was causing your suffering? How about Earth?
Hey everyone, Brandflex here. If you're watching the neutral and forest craft lists, I think this will probably replace the intro. But basically, I've split these videos into separate videos just because I recorded the forest craft and the neutral craft videos in one go, and then I looked at my timestamp and I was like, I am not going to do like 4 straight hours. And it's going like 3 hours of like just straight yapping and killing my already strained voice from being sick, probably. So yeah, these videos will all be split up. If you guys want to see the other videos, then go ahead and click on them. Otherwise, please enjoy, and I'll see you guys in the actual video itself. The very first card we'll talk about is going to be this 2-mana card called Inspirational One. This is a 2-mana 1/3 with a ward. If your opponent super evos and this is in your hand, you gain Bane. I think this card is going to be a 1 out of 5 in constructed play, basically 0 out of 5 at that point, or a 2 out of 5 in Take 2 as a card that you can barely choose to play if you have no more rerolls, and the other card's very good. The reason why this card is not good is because the Bane, it's not a rush, there's no barrier, so it's just like a card that can be very easily removed by your opponent without triggering the Bane at all. And you have to Evo it if you want to use a Bane proactively, and you have to super Evo it if you want to use the Bane and not lose the follower as well. So this card's very bad. I don't see it being played at all. The next card, Dogged One, the complete opposite of the previous card. This is a 3-mana 3/1 with Rush naturally, and if it's in your hand when your opponent super evos, it gains Storm. I think this card is a 5 out of 5 in both constructed and in Take 2. Maybe like a 4 out of 5 in Take 2 just because you don't have as straightforward as a game plan, but it might as well be 5 out of 5. But anyways, the reason why it's 5 out of 5 is because it gives every single craft universal reach through Storm. Now obviously some crafts like Forest and Rune and Sword already have really good reach without these like Storm cards, but this gives stuff like Haven Craft, you know, like Portal Craft, even though Portal already has stuff like Beta and Omega. It's like stuff you can prep on top of that. Gives stuff like Dragon, which has really strong Storm cards, but this is actually more efficient mana-wise because it's 3 damage for 3. Like stuff like Forte is, I think it's 4 damage for 5, and stuff like Twilight, or not Twilight, but like Proto Drake. While Proto Drake itself is like really good for mana, it's like very clumsy as a card because it's only a Storm body. So essentially what I'm saying is that this card is really efficient for decks that either lacked the finishers or would like more finishers. And being able to play this, like if you have all three copies in your hand on turn 9, this is a massive high roll. That is 12 damage from your hand if your opponent has no ward, which is potentially more common than you think. If you have 2 copies in your hand and your opponent super evos, this is 9 damage with a super evo from your hand, and your opponent must have a ward again to deal with it. So this card is a very flexible Storm card. It's 5 out of 5 because of its niche, not necessarily because it's so broken that it will be played in every single deck. I think if aggro becomes very popular in this next set, it will be solely because this card exists, which is the reason why I'm putting 5 out of 5 for this. I could be wrong though, obviously. The next card is going to be the first legendary we go over. It's going to be Gilnelise. I'm going to call her Gil from now on. She is a 3-mana 0/3 with a fanfare of select another follower on the field, any follower, not just your own, and you get +2/-2. If both of you have 10 max play points, you add a Sweetness of Voracity to her hand. She also comes with Drain, and her Evolve replicates the +2/-2 fanfare effect. Sweetness of Voracity is going to be a 5-mana spell that deals 5 damage to a random enemy follower and the enemy leader. So I'm going to rate this card as a 3 out of 5 for constructed, and I think I'm going to say like 2 out of 5 for Take 2, just because she's taking a higher power legendary from your actual craft. Obviously, if the other legendary or the other gold card is really good, you could take this and it probably won't be too bad, but you'll feel bad knowing that it's replacing a better legendary from your actual class. The reason why she's 3 out of 5 on constructed is because I do think there are decks that can play her, because she's either like decent, she's not that great removal, but she's like a decent amount of removal, and since I'm assuming you have to super evo or you have to evo her, like I think the idea is that you're going to evo her, and I think you can actually select herself for her evolution effect to give her like rush and more damage, and she comes with Drain, so she's like a better version of Ariette, if that makes sense, but she's also not like incredible by any means. 5 damage to face for 5 mana is very efficient, especially since it comes with the amount of board clear. So for late game, mainly in Take 2, she is really efficient in that way, but obviously most crafts have much better plays than 8 mana play Gilnelise and then play her 5-mana spell. So 3 out of 5, probably playable in certain niche decks, but not excellent by any means. The next card is going to be Tablet of Tribulations. This card, I'm going to say, is going to be a 4 out of 5 in Constructed, and a maybe, I'm going to say like a 3 out of 5 in Take 2. This is going to be a 3-mana artifact, or 3-mana amulet rather. When you play it, you banish all dupes from your deck, and then when you click on it, or rather engage it, you draw a card. This has been compared to Goblet Staff a lot, and I can see why, because it kind of just has permanent draw, and for all intents and purposes, it is just Goblet Staff. Every turn, you draw an extra card. The downside, quote-unquote, is that your deck is a lot thinner, so you theoretically lose the game from the Reaper card that you draw once you have 0 cards in your deck a lot sooner. Obviously, they have ways to play around that, aka Jerry, which we'll get to in a bit. So the downside is technically very easily fixable by running a singular copy in your deck. So this card is theoretically very interesting. It creates a lot of Highlander-esque decks that you can play, and I wouldn't be surprised if there are a lot of decks in the future that make this a 5 out of 5 because it lets you draw into your win con way more consistently. So this card has a lot of potential. I'm only saying it's 4 out of 5 and not 5 out of 5 because it's not very splashable, if that makes sense. You can only play it with specific decks, and there's not really proof yet that those specific decks are really good or even better than what can be played now. So this is like 4 out of 5 constructed, with the caveat that if there are meta decks that are insanely powerful with this deck, it's so obviously 5 out of 5, like in retrospect. But until that gets confirmed, it's a 4 out of 5 just because you can play around it, and it can be a way to make your deck more consistent. Like, let's say you play Roach, and you have no Roach, and let's say it's like turn 6, there's an open board, you have every other combo piece you need but Roach, you just slam this card, and then you try to win by turn 8, and that's a pretty good use case for it. But it won't be very frequent, maybe, if you're quote-unquote luckier with your draws, but it does help you, cut out all the fluff in your deck and then let you close out a game if you only need 1 or 2 particular cards to win the game. The next card we're going to go over is going to be Apostle of Voracity. It's going to be a 4-mana 2/2. Fanfare, select another follower and give it for a +4/-4. This card is going to be, I'm going to say this is a 1 out of 5 in Constructed, and I'm going to go ahead and actually claim that's a 3 out of 5 in Take 2. This card is essentially a 4-mana deal 4 to an enemy minion, because there's not many things that can survive a -4 health subtraction in the mid game or even late game. Obviously, there are cards that can survive it, and you can even give it to your own cards to try and slam into a different card, or even just use it as extra face damage. Keep in mind that when you Super Evo something, from what I've been told, Super Evo does not negate your minion dying from losing all of its HP through these health subtraction effects. So you actually don't have use cases where, like, for example, Dogs 1, like I said earlier, you actually cannot, like on turn 7, if you play Dogs 1, Super Evo it, and then try and buff it with Apostle of Voracity, your Dogs 1 just dies. So you actually can't make that play due to the fact that this isn't a deal 4, gain 4 attack, this is a subtract 4, gain 4 attack. So it's not as good as you might think it is for comboing burst. So it is essentially just deal 4 damage to enemy, do a little clear. Very efficient in Take 2 for the most part, but probably not going to be good anywhere else in Constructed. Mjerrabaine, who I'll be calling Jerry because I can't pronounce that name at all. This is going to be the Forced Highlander. Very interesting card. 4 mana, 3/3, Fanfare, add a great testimony to your hand. When you evolve it, you gain a crest. The crest, when you gain it, it replaces your entire deck with the Jerry deck, which is essentially 1 copy of every single card that was released in this expansion. And then when you draw the final card, instead of dropping the Reaper card that kills you, you instantly win the game. And then at the end of your turn, you discard everything in your hand except for the spell you gain from playing him, and you draw 6 cards. Great Testimony is a 1-mana spell that lets you select an enemy follower and destroy it. So it's a 1-mana execute, which is super efficient. This card is probably not, I would say in Constructed, I'm actually give it a 4 out of 5, just because it solves the tablet's main issue of making you lose the game if you hit 0. So combined with tablet, you could say I'm saying it's 4 out of 5. Otherwise, I think ironically it's like not actually that good because it doesn't really further any deck's game plan. It simply makes you not lose by playing tablet. So if you play tablet, let's say you're playing a really strong control mid-range deck, you play tablet to make sure you get every single copy of your powerful curve, and then usually the downside should be that you lose the game if you don't win by those like few draws because of the Reaper card. But with Jerry, you can force your opponent to use all their Evos, all their good quality cards, And then instead of losing the game because you run out of cards, you play Jerry, and now you continue the engine of having hopefully great cards over and over again because you draw 6 cards. Now, I think there are 76 cards with this expansion, so it actually takes you a very, very long time to get the win con through the victory card. So you actually shouldn't be expecting to win with the deck out mechanic of Jerry, but maybe it's possible, especially if you play Jerry super early on. I think you probably win with Jerry on like turn 12 with all the draw cards in the deck. But I just wouldn't expect, like, dedicated Jerry decks are probably not going to be that good outside of funny interactions, but Jerry as like a I don't want to lose due to playing tablet condition will be a bit more efficient and also help you in these matchups that are technically auto loss for your decks. Think like Wardhaven versus Forest, or yeah, Roach Forest. Roach Forest is supposed to lose automatically, but Jerry maybe lets you get cards that actually lets you play against stuff like Wardhaven as Roach Forest. So 4 out of 5 might be a bit high. I think in Take 2, this is actually even better. So like 4 out of 5 in Constructed with Tablet, probably 2 out of 5 without Tablet. And then Take 2, I think Jerry's probably like potentially like 5 out of 5 just because of pure tempo advantage you gain from drawing 6 cards. You know, having infinite draw, always have resources, always be able to play something. Unless you really low roll the draw, you always have something to play in Take 2, and that's going to win you a lot of games for fun. The final neutral card is going to be Greatness Ascended. This is another Highlander card. It's a 4 mana spell. When you play it, you draw 3 cards. And if there are no duplicates in your deck, you recover 3 play points. So it becomes a 1 mana draw 3, which is incredibly powerful. 4 mana draw 3 is honestly really good to begin with, because if you think about Seraphic Tidings, it's 3 mana draw 2. So you're drawing 1 extra card for 1 extra mana. And the upside is that if you play Jerry and you play this, now you suddenly just draw 3 extra. You've drawn 3 cards for 1 mana, and it helps you accelerate the Jerry condition. And if somehow you have 3 copies of this in your hand before you play Jerry, then you can draw 9 cards in 1 turn, or like, yeah, 15 cards with the Jerry effect. So this card is really strong. With Jerry, it's obviously 5 out of 5. Without Jerry, I'd say it's like 2 out of 5 in Constructed. And then even in Take 2, I think in Take 2 is actually 4 out of 5, just because 4 mana draw 3 will be super, super powerful. Like, it won't win you games. Oh, it will win you games, and obviously it won't help you against other players that like super high roll their tempo and curve. But if you're low on cards and you just play 4 mana draw 3, like that saves your game a lot of times. And assuming that you're playing Take 2, like there are scenarios where you could draw, or you do draft a deck without many duplicates. So, or even you get Jerry. So the upside for this card is really high, even in Take 2. So yeah.